The document is already recognized as a priceless cultural artifact, its historical authenticity beyond question. The 4 extant original copies are rarely displayed to the public, and even then under close guard. The rest of the time they're kept away from the damaging effects of light and atmosphere in high-security locked vaults in the British Museum and 3 other world-renowned institutions. There's absolutely zero chance of this paradigm-destroying proof ever going astray. It was printed in 1609, only a century and a half after the Gutenberg press made it finally possible to quickly create multiple copies of important documents, highly increasing their chance of near-permanent survival. Now, I already told you that the document I'm about to show you contains everything you just saw revealed in the Great Pyramid, and when you consider it's encoded into the title page of a small book, that means whoever did this had to create a tiny, 2-dimensional blueprint capable of secretly conveying all the geometrical precision inherent in the largest 3-dimensional object on the face of the Earth. This was the tail end of the Dark Age Kali Yuga cycle. Mathematics was still considered a black art, and communicating such esoteric information was deemed heresy by both the Catholic and Protestant churches. It had to be made invisible to the prying eyes of the ever-watchful censors, or the author would face certain torture and probably be burned at the stake. Here's the lowest portion of the document. And what you see on screen is 5 inches wide in actuality. We're going to literally connect the dots, the punctuation. The TT stands for Thomas Thorpe, the publisher. Look at that italic slope of the second T. It's actually guiding us to connect this dot to this dot using the sloping T as a guide. And by connecting these other lines, it produces 1 right-angled triangle, 2 right-angled triangles, 3, 4. Perfect right-angled triangles. And this is no ordinary right-angled triangle. This is the iconic 3, 4, 5 triangle of Pythagorean theorem fame. A perfect circle passes through all the 6 points. This is a visual representation of something called Thales' theorem, named after the Greek philosopher who scholars believe was Pythagoras' mentor. But Thales is best known as the first person to measure the height of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and he did it using the geometry of right-angled triangles. Let's now complete the image by connecting the 2 remaining intersections between the circle and the horizontal lines. Now, obviously, we're being guided to measure these lines, and as with the pyramid, I'm going to be really quick and spare you the math. Just know that every calculation is accurate to at least 3 decimals. The ratio of these 2 lines gives us pi. Here's Euler's number, E, and here's the mysterious E minus 1. Just a reminder, the importance of this isn't known even today in the 21st century, but now you know it's the royal cubit in ratio to the unity of foot. Here's phi, and its inverse phi minus 1, the famous golden ratio. Here's the Fibonacci constant. That's the next level up from the Fibonacci and its golden ratio. The Euler-Maccheroni constant, gamma. This describes the difference between 2 infinities, the harmonic series and the logarithmic series. Its inverse is almost precisely the square root of 3, a very important constant connected to the sacred Vesica Piscis. Roots 5, 6, and 2 are derived from triangles I'm going to skip. They're attached to the left ends of these lines. And finally, Brune's constant, B2, a critical clue to prime number theory. Well, that's exactly the same 12 constants from the Great Pyramid. Additionally, they're all linked to the 3, 4, 5 triangle at the center, as well as being inextricably bound to each other. Move one of these points even slightly, and the whole thing falls apart. The brilliant genius of this 2D version reveals exactly what we saw in the pyramid, a precise geometrical connection between them all that science is utterly unaware of even today. And it contains the same breathtaking perfection of the universal constant of measure. Here's the foot. And if we make its value unity, then in perfect ratio to it, here's cubit. And the meter is bigger, so it takes 2 lines. Added together, these are the meter. to an incredible 99.97% accuracy. Now, what you've just witnessed is absolutely mathematically and historically impossible. When this document was published in 1609, 5 of these constants were not yet discovered. They were still between 60 and 300 years into the future. The meter also would not be invented for almost 200 years. In itself, absolute proof that this information had to have been transmitted by covert means, within a select group of cognoscenti, whose charge it was to guard and guide it to safety from age to age. Whoever created this tiny masterpiece was dutifully continuing that line of transmission. But from whom and when? Even today, the world is only aware of 3 of these constants being present in the pyramid, maybe 4. E came to light in 2002, but has largely been ignored. All you see remaining is completely new information today. 8 constants, and the universal constant of measure, foot cubic meter. Since our whole present academic worldview runs up against that wall of prehistory, behind which we cannot look, the conundrum can only be answered by a different paradigm. Such knowledge could only have come from a time when all of this was previously known. Now, so far, our brilliant 1609 cryptographer has managed to convey everything you've seen by using just 2 lines and 4 dots. But whoever sent the original transmission was adamant the message get through because they conveyed an additional, absolutely critical piece of information, utterly unknowable in 1609, which required the author of this document to use 2 more dots. During the Renaissance, the letter G was often used on maps to indicate the globe. The Pythagoreans used it to mean geometry or geodesy, the measuring of the earth. Modern-day Freemasons have carried the convention through. So the letters outside the invisible circle by G, and note that it's marked by a dot that is 10 times bigger than the others, just to draw attention to the fact that this is really to represent the Earth, the globe. So it says by G, which means measuring the Earth, and on its own here, 2B. 2B, measuring the Earth. Out to the right here, on its own is E, suggesting rather nicely east. So these other dots point out a straight baseline east. And the end of this line on the left, here, makes a perfect tangent to the Earth's circle, pointing out another way of measuring the Earth. And the top line precisely identifies a couple of angles here. Since these angles are oriented to the north and east of their baselines, and to make sure we don't miss that, there's another clue here. North, east. North and east angles must be latitude and longitude coordinates. It's a treasure map, you see. So it's all been made as foolproof as possible. Anybody getting this far will, of course, measure these angles as accurately as possible using trigonometry, and bingo, put it in Google Earth and you get the message, loud and clear. That latitude is 99.999% accurate. The longitude, 99.99% accurate to the precise center of the pyramid. Again, further proof of prior knowledge of who sent this originally. They didn't even know how to do longitude accurately in 1609. Galileo was still wrestling with the problem when he died 25 years later, in 1634. Maps of the Mediterranean from the time are off by hundreds of miles in an east-west direction. So how is this possible? Only one way, It was transmitted by beings of far greater knowledge and intelligence than us, from a higher age that doesn't show up on this timeline. Never before imprinted, indeed. The author's job was to replicate it well enough that this newfangled machine, the Gutenberg press, could immortalize it for all time, assuring it was safe and would find its way to posterity no matter what. Well, he certainly did a good job, don't you think?